Hey guys, welcome to Ringsiders. Jamie here with Callum. How are you doing, Callum?
I'm good, thank you, Jamie.
We have a very special guest today. Really excited for this one. He is the Perfect Creation one, a former WWF Tag Team Champion, former Ring of Honor Tag Team Champion, Six-Man Tag Team Champion, NWA Tag Team Champion, Crockett Cup winner, and a Ring of Honor World Champion. PCO, thank you for joining us. How are you, sir?
I'm great. I'm awesome. You almost had all the titles there.
Hey, if we were to go through all the titles,
I forgot WCW Hardcore Champion. That might be the only one. I'm just.
Hey, I was looking at your list of championships earlier. If we was to go through all of them, we'd be here for another 2 hours. You know?
Yeah, if we start to go with IWS and all that.
Yeah, man.
It'll never end.
Pretty well decorated wrestler.
Yeah. And then on top of that, 2018 and 2019, like, were very prosperous for me. So they were really very good 2 years, pretty awesome.
When you think about people who have really reinvented themselves later on in their career, I was thinking about this before we did the interview, and I couldn't think of many people, if any, who have done it in the same way that you have. And that's not just exaggerating. I can't think of anybody who has reinvented themselves as successfully as PCO has. And when you came to Ring of Honor, and this is not even slightest bit of disrespect, but I knew you before from being part of the Quebecers, and I was like, this is cool. Like, I was a fan of yours anyway, but I didn't expect to see what I did when you got in the ring. You were doing all this crazy stuff. Yeah. You were blowing people's minds. How did you do it? Did you know that was going to happen? Was that your plan going into it when you first came to Ring of Honor? Yeah.
Yeah, I think if it was not a plan, nothing would have happened. I don't think things happens like just like that. I mean, it was a strong will of many years under that, and I didn't know how it was going to happen. I didn't know what kind of way was going to bring me there, if it was going to be with Impact or WWE, or I certainly didn't envision that much Ring of Honor until mid 2018. But yeah, I knew I had, like, after that match with Walter, Georgia Spring Break 2, WrestleMania 34 in Louisiana, I knew I was onto something pretty big. So from there, I just knew that something was going to happen. Like, I just had I still have a pretty good gut feeling about something else, but at that time I remember that I knew something. Matter of fact, I turned down a few offers during 2018 because I wanted to be the offer that I was going to take. I wanted to be the right one. So I turned down a few contracts.
Well, it's funny you should say about WrestleMania 34 weekend, because I was at WrestleMania 34, traveled over there, and me and my friend at the time, we'd been attending WrestleCon and everything like that. And the word going around was yourself versus Walter. That was like the big match happening that weekend. And I think that's when I first started to realize there's something going on here with PCO. Like, this, I don't know, like, because I believe at the time you'd have been 49, 50.
Yeah, I just turned 50 because December I had just turned 50. I was 50, yeah.
Yeah, and I remember thinking then, like, wow, this is like a late career resurgence, but then the word going around was that it was one of the matches of the weekend, and everybody was like hyped about it. And do you feel like the match with Walter was the start of this recreation, the start of PCO?
Yeah, I started a little bit earlier than that. It started against Holly Go Ethan Page in Indiana, and Joey Janela was there watching the match. I mean, he was part of the card. He was on the card, and on the way back to the hotel, and he knew that he wanted me to be part of Spring Break 2, and he knew that he wanted to put me with Walter. So So yeah, it started a little bit before that, but I knew when Joey asked me if I wanted to be part of the spring break, and it was going to be in Louisiana, I knew that I wanted to steal the show with Walter.
Well, if you're going to steal the show with anybody, Walter's definitely a top guy to do it with. What was it like stepping into the ring with somebody like Walter? And like, I'm guessing, you've been up against some greats before. You've been in the WWF, WCW, and what was it like stepping into the ring with like a modern day great in Walter?
I had the same approach that I would have with the Steiners, or that I would have with Shawn Michaels, or that I would have with Brett. I didn't take it any differently. I certainly didn't take it any lightly. You know, for me, it was my WrestleMania moment right there. Like, I knew it was either you make it or break it. You know, it was one of those moments where I had to deliver. I had to. So when I spoke to Walter before the match, I felt good because I had worked him like maybe 10 years prior to that, when he was just a kid, and I was in for WXW for a 16-carat tournament. And I didn't even remember. He told me there in Louisiana, hey, Carl, we worked together, remember? And then I start, having the flashes about, yeah, I've worked with him before. But it was like a six-man tag or something like that. So we just like, basically, it was just starting. Didn't have like the vicious chops or anything like that. But I got there a day earlier. I watched, because he was wrestling like probably for the whole week, like 3 times per day. And I told him that this was going to be a special moment. And he didn't understand maybe, but I told him that this match was going to be different from the others. And he was really open about it, and he really made sure we had a good match. You know, he didn't take it lightly either. You know, he was really professional about it. So, yeah.
What was it like taking a chop? Sorry.
You know what? I could have stayed there for 2 days and take his chops. Seriously.
No.
I mean, it was such a good time for me, good moment. I mean, I enjoyed every chop that I got, because it made like the crowd react, like even like more and more and more. And it was a back and forth battle. A back and forth, but I was the underdog on the chop. And I was probably the underdog on the match as well. So all around, I was the underdog everywhere. And I think that's what made the story of the match.
Yeah,
I mean, every time that I wouldn't go down for one of his chops, because usually when a wrestler starts feeling pain, a lot of pain, usually he bumps to get a little break, you know?
Yeah.
But in my mind, I was not going to bump any time. Like, I didn't want to bump. I wanted to take all the chops. So at one point, you got to be professional a little bit. And then at one point, Walter, like, that's his gimmick, you know? And then he was telling me, bump, you know, as he's chopping me. And then I took a few, and so we made it a good battle.
Well, I think you're one of the only men in the world who actually wants to take his chops. I can't think of anyone else who would want to.
I've been in the building when he's been chopping people, and I felt like I was taking that chop. It was that loud. So
he's got the loudest, probably. He's got the perfect hand.
Yeah.
Perfect hands, I should say, but he chops basically from that one same hand. But he's got long fingers, big palm, thick hand. He's got everything for the sound effect, you know. Sometimes, sometimes I wrestle, let's say, Mark Briscoe. He's tough son of a gun too, you know. Sometimes you get into a chop exchange with Mark Briscoe, and sometimes it hurts more than it would with Walter. But Walter's chops are so spectacular because of the way he throws it. Like, he really takes a huge swing. And sometimes you see the ends like getting into the chest. The visual effects from Walter's chops they're unbeatable. You know, it's impossible.
I've seen a video of Walter giving a chop in slow motion, and you see the hand hitting the chest, and it just looks terrifying.
And he leaves a lot of marks and trace, and hands down, he's the best chopper, I think, in the business right now. And and also sometimes, like, I remember, like, Chris Benoit was a big chopper, but didn't like to take them. You would like to get them. But when it's part of your gimmick, you got to be able to receive a few if you want to give that many, you know.
Of course.
And I think that Walter is very aware of that, and I think he's comfortable with that. So he's not the type of guy that wants to give everything and I don't want to get anything on the other side. So it's just a good all-around guy, you know, a good person, great athlete, and a great wrestler. It was a perfect fit for me that night. So, and we've been in touch since then.
Oh, cool.
We stayed pretty good friends.
I like to talk a bit of old school as well. I'm like the old school guy at the podcast, so I was wondering, going back to the old WWF days with the Quebecers, with Jacques Rougeau, how did you get that call? How did that first come about, getting the job there? Did you always want to be in a tag team? Did you know Jacques before joining?
Yeah, I knew the Rougeau brothers as a fan. Like when I was a kid or a teenager, I used to go to Montreal Forum or watch like some show from local wrestling or international wrestling. We had like a lot of talents: Dino Bravo, Rick Martel.
Yeah.
The Rougeaus, they were in a tag team scene. Ping Tonga, Road Warriors used to come a lot. Ric Flair, Bockwinkel, everybody. They all came here to Montreal, and I remember I was there during one of the greatest feuds in Montreal was the Rougeau brothers against the Garvin brothers, Ronnie and Terry. And I really liked that feud, and I knew the Rougeaus, but they didn't know me, either of them. And I was in Puerto Rico working for Carlos Colon, and Jacques happened to show up there for a weekend doing an angle with Carlos, who's the promoter and booker and top wrestler at the time in 1993. And he was presenting himself to everybody on the road, just getting into the band. And then I said hi in French, and I presented my name, myself in French. And he was so surprised. And then he watched all my match. I was just, sometimes I was just wrestling just before the main event against Jose Gonzalez. The guy who had the story with, Brody. Rosie Brody. Yeah. So, so he was watching my matches. And Ray had just took a retirement, and I felt he saw me and saw an opportunity to get the WWF titles. That's because I never got them with his brother. So it was a win-win situation there. I wanted badly to get a break in WWE, WWF, and he needed a partner. So that was a good fit. So I got sent out to Carolina from Puerto Rico for tryout matches, and I've wrestled like just 2 nights in a row. And Surgeon Slaughter called me back, and Pat Patterson and Jacques called me back and saying we're starting in June TV tapings, and 3 months after, we won the title against the Steiner brothers on Raw. So that's all. Like my career started in WWF, but I had been like working the Indies for 8 years when I cut my first break. And and I got discouraged so many times. Like I slept in my car many times. I traveled. I've been to Calgary, never got booked. I stayed there for 4 months trying to get booked for only one match or something, an opportunity. Nothing happened. I was ready to go to Vancouver to All Tomco. Had no more money. I couldn't stay anymore. I had to go back home. And then I went back to the Maritimes for a promotion owned by Rene Dupre's father, Emile. And it kind of made it there, but then I got fired, and then I was young, and then I finally got booked in England for Brian Dixon, and then from there, I really took off from Brian Dixon to Rene Lacetes in Hamburg, Germany, and then to Otto Vance, to Hanover and Bremen, which was like my big break, because finally I was making good money, very decent money. And they offered me another contract for the following years for 6 months. And in between, I didn't even have time to sign that contract. That I had the phone call from Carlos, and I went to Puerto Rico, met Jacques, and then I was signed up by WWF.
Did you enjoy working for Brian Dixon when you was in England? Because he's still promoting nowadays. He's still doing shows everywhere. Yeah. He'll never stop.
Well, I don't think he will. And I know him very well because I worked for him in 91, 92. And then I worked again for him in 2005. No, 2007. 2007. And sometimes I would just go there if I was in Germany for a while, and then I would go work for Brian for a month or two, just in between trips and things like that. So I always kept in touch with him and his son-in-law, Dean Allmark, and his daughter, Letitia. So pretty close to the family. And it was a great experience there. I mean, we learned different things that wrestling's different. When I was there, it was the round system. Germany too. Round 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rounds.
Yeah, very different. Rounds. Yeah.
And then when I got back there, it had changed to American wrestling. That's what he was trying to promote, American wrestling.
Yeah, he still does now.
I remember watching the English guy like Steve Regal, Dave Taylor, and Dave Finlay, and Marty Jones and Tony Sinclair. And I remember watching them, and me and my partner at the time, Rick Crawford, were trying to do stuff like they were doing. And Dixon came to me and said, "Man, Carl, I brought you guys from Canada. I don't want you to wrestle like my English guys. I got plenty of those. Wrestle the Canadian style. Wrestle the US style. I don't want the England style. I got plenty of that." So that makes sense. Why fly all the way from Canada to wrestle like the other guys? So
that's a really good point.
Good lesson there.
Yeah. So he wanted you to come over and wrestle like the American, Canadian, like you see on TV.
He wanted the WWF style. That's what he wanted, He didn't want to get you wet and, all those nice things that the lads can do, He wanted like different style, kicking punches and
slams,
whatever,
He still promotes shows now, and on all of the posters it says live American wrestling.
Well, he's big. When I was there the last time, and even the first time, he was big on coming out with a flag. Like he wanted to look international. Like
that's
had to come out with the Canadian flag, or someone from Australia had to come out with the Australian flag. If it was a Japanese guy, he had to come out with the Japanese flag. And he's all about entertainment. And his biggest thing is like, if he's got good matches going, then he can sell a lot of merch.
That's true.
And we had to go in cars where merch was all back up into my head, and the car was full of merch. That was the bread and butter, basically.
That's really cool to hear, because I wasn't aware that you'd worked with All Star and Brian Dixon. I think that's really cool, personally. I've been to quite a few All Star shows, it would have been cool to see you mix it up there as a fan, but also as a fan of.
We want more. We want
Yeah.
more. You know, it's just a different type of deal. You know? It's so family orientated.
So PG, so family friendly.
Yeah,
but great shows though. Like you can't help but enjoy it. Like you're not going to see anything offensive. Nothing's going to be too bad, and you're going to leave with a smile on your face. So it's good. It's good family entertainment.
The whole idea,
yeah. But you. So nowadays, we find you with Ring of Honor. Obviously, the last few months, you haven't been able to do the full schedule with the pandemic that's going on worldwide. What have you been doing to fill the gaps in between wrestling? Like for a lot of wrestlers we've spoken to, they're struggling with the downtime and not quite knowing what to do with all this extra time they've got. How have you been adapting to it?
Oh, I'm really busy. I don't have like a minute loose, you know. I got a 11-year-old daughter, so I'm trying to spend more time with her than ever because now I've got time to do so, more time. But also, we're shooting like a video per week, and we're doing. It takes about maybe just to shoot a video like that probably takes 4 to 5 hours. Plus all the writings, the preparation for it, plus all the post-production and everything. So it takes almost like a week to prepare, you know, especially the last 3 videos that we put online. There's a lot of work into it, and it's really demanding. Plus on top of that, I work out like twice a day. We're lucky enough to have like a private gym where basically it's Destro's gym where he's my coach and manager, and I'm lucky enough that I can train at his gym in his garage. So there's a lot of time there, a lot of time preparing, you know, the videos for the Monday night, and the only thing that we don't have is we don't have access to a ring right now, which kind of sucks a little bit, you know. I could have one for, you know, for a video for, but I don't have one like up all the time, you know. Usually I do, but the place where I store my ring is had to be closed for the pandemic, so I can't use it.
Yeah.
But between my dollars, you know, the movies, the shootings, and the trainings, there's a lot going on. And I do a lot of podcasts too. And we have a meeting every Thursday afternoon with all on Zoom with all the roster and the executives from Ring of Honor. So we're analyzing what we can do best on a weekly basis. You know, so. Yeah, it's really, really, really busy. For me, it's not so much of a difference between regular season and pandemic time. It's pretty much the same. And also, I try to write a little bit like every day, you know, about a book that I'm going to come out with or a script for a comic book series or film. Things like that. So there's plenty of work, you know, and I'm trying to use that time to really make a difference. Try to use this as a positive instead of a negative.
That's cool. Like you're keeping busy, you know, like you said, you're not doing much less than when you're on the road anyway or wrestling full time. That's good.
Well, I just decided to put more into the videos, like more quality, more angles, more post-production, more effects and everything, just to make it more like a movie. So that's been the challenge lately.
I do enjoy your YouTube videos. I'm subscribed.
All right.
It's fantastic to watch. It really is. And Destro. How did Destro come into your life? Because he seems like a character.
Oh yeah, there's only one face like Destro in the world, maybe two. I compare him to Danny Trejo, Machete. I think they have a similar look. I think they have that face that you're not sure, is he a good guy or he's crazy or a psychopath or what is he? He's a super nice guy, but he's got that casting face. Like this. I think it was, it's a perfect character for me to be my manager, to be, the Dr. Frankenstein, basically, So I really like that. And sometimes, I wish that eventually we're gonna work more together on pay-per-views or on TV tapings, and then we're gonna have be able to have the full PCO all the way, we had that great entrance at Madison Square Garden, a G1 Supercard, and I think it should be like that almost like at every pay-per-view, if not at maybe every TV taping would be too much, but every major pay-per-view, like Best in the World, Final Battle, and the big ones.
The big ones, yeah, definitely.
That's what I'm hoping for.
Well, what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to take a question from Twitter. We've actually put out a post saying, if you've got any questions for PCO, let us know. And we've just got one come in from Matthew Lopez. And Matthew wants to know what you're looking forward to the most about getting back into the ring in Ring of Honor.
Oh, of course. I would lie if I wouldn't say that getting the world title back would be one of the things that I'm looking for.
I was hoping you'd say that.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of things have changed, but I think that's still one of the major goals. That's because I feel like with the pandemic and everything, the way that things happened, I was on a good I was promoting ROH in a way that I thought I was doing a great job, getting them known all over Canada. I had been on major TV talk shows and I had planned on going on the major US TV talk show in New York and LA, and meeting guys like George Foreman and Mike Tyson, and just talking about the comeback and things like that. And I think that would shoot a lot of lights on ROH, and because every wrestling fan that respect himself know about Ring of Honor, but sometimes if you go through customs or just a supermarket and people know that you're a wrestler, but they ask you, are you part of WWE? Or I wanted to bring Ring of Honor to the next level where every human being's everybody walking in the street, knows about
household
Ring of
name.
Honor. Yeah. I wanted to make it like that. That was a goal, and that still is the goal. To bring it to the next level.
One thing I'd love to see, and I don't know if you've put any thought into doing it, but with Marty Scurll challenging for the NWA World Championship here and there, is that something you'd like to do as well as part of Villain Enterprises? Can we expect to see PCO step up for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship?
Yeah, that was it's funny that you mentioned that, because the plan at first, the first plans were I was supposed to go against Nick Aldis for the NWA World Title in Montreal, in Canada, and then something happened that Ring of Honor didn't want it to happen. Kind of didn't want it to happen, or it didn't happen, or I don't know. We lost our relationship at one point with NWA, and when Marty signed, and then Marty's a good friend of Nick. Actually, both of them, I met them while I was in England in 2007. and then the relationship is back on now. So yeah, that could be something very possible. That would add to the how can I say that? All the championships that I've won, that would add to the emphasize or the character even bigger, or
you did an interview with
you
did an interview with Chris Van Vliet where he asked you, how do you top that in 2020? And given that the pandemic's happened, you've maybe missed this chunk of time at the start of the year. A quick way to make up for that at the end of the year would just be to win the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. That's if you ask me, that's how you do it. That's huge.
That would be awesome. That would be awesome. Just to get a title match with Nick, and also, when I was the champ, I had done so many talk shows back home where Ring of Honor was not known that much, and we were about to sell out like 20,000 tickets. For me, it was going to be the next All In. It's going to be like the title defense. At Montreal Bell Center in a sold out arena, and then, anyways, stars weren't aligned like that, but maybe it could happen with the NWA title. Maybe it's going to happen. It might happen in Atlanta first, Georgia. It might happen. I don't know how things going to turn out, but I'm making sure that I do everything in my power to be as, to be in the game, to be as over as possible when everything starts back.
Well, before we start to wrap things up, I was going to ask you, what can we expect to see from you for the rest of 2020? But you've just kind of answered my question. You just want to get as over as possible. And I think by doing that, you're going to just collect as many championships as you can, keep people talking. You did that last year and the year before. You've reinvented yourself. You've kept people talking. You've kept your name in their mouths. And I think that's what you're going to do for the next year, 2 years, 3 years, however long you do it. Are you just going to keep this going for as long as it goes? Is there any end goal in sight?
No, not as long as it goes. I have specific goals that I want to achieve, and they always been the same. I just want to be. I just want to be. Just want to have the highest growth for pay-per-view sale and the biggest gate for pay-per-view, and then I'm out of there. That's it. That's all I want.
That's it.
I have one more question before we go, because it's going back in. I watched your match with Bret Hart today. Again, is it In Your House 3? So I just want that is. I had goosebumps watching it still today. It's a fantastic match. I just thought I wanted to end basically with, is that one of your favourite matches? What was it like working with Bret? Because Bret speaks very, very highly of yourself.
Yeah, Bret has been one of my favorite match. He's been one of my favorite opponent as well, and he's been one of the guys that I respect. I have nothing bad to say against him. Like, me and Bret, we had a little scrap, Royal Rumble when I jumped on his knee. He thought he was injured and he wasn't. And we had a little bit we argued a little bit in the dressing room after that. But the next day he came to me. He said, no, I said, I worried about my knee more than I didn't get injured at all. And then, we had that argument, and then he said, no, man, I'm sorry about last night. I got scared a little bit and things like that. And after that, we feuded for 3 to 4 months together, and it was one of the most wonderful time of my career. I mean, I had so much fun every time I worked against him. I learned so much. He was very professional about his matches. He always wanted to have a good match. He was never sloppy on, we'll see, we'll call it in the ring or this or that. He was super professional. And but I've had like so many other important matches. Like Walter is one of them.
Yeah.
My debut at Ring of Honor. The Jacques Rougeau retirement match is on YouTube as well. It's just like working on top of a WWF card, you know, when you have like Undertaker, Yokozuna, Razor Ramon, Double J Jeff Jarrett, Bret Hart, Jim Neidhart, Owen Hart, they all underneath you, and you top that card being the main event. That's got to be one of your, you know, best match of the career of your life. You know, it's got to be up there with, you know, with the title that I won against Rouge, final battle, with the tag team titles, with especially that feud with Bret, and I've had also a good match with Shawn Michaels and a good, you know, main evented one time in Poughkeepsie, New York, in a match against Taker. So they're all good souvenirs, you know.
Yeah, not bad, really, are they?
it's just hard. It's just so hard to just pick one out of a lot, you know.
I imagine.
They all of them are very unique and special for different reasons. But the Bret's match, and Bret as a character, and the best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be. It's cool, you know, when his music was hitting and you were fighting him in the ring, you know, and you hear the music and he's making his way. It's pretty good feeling. Yeah.
And so out of all those memories, you're hoping to cap that off with the biggest pay-per-view gate in history.
Yeah.
In Ring of Honor history.
I had the dream that I had to become world champion, and
hey, you did it.
It happened on the late, and I believe that there's something special that's going to happen. I don't know what's going to trigger that. I just believe that this character's got the potential to do something larger than life.
Awesome. Well, I'll tell you what. When you've got that pay-per-view gate, when you've reached that record, let's get you back on the show and we'll discuss it.
I hope you will write it down when I do so. You know, I hope you'll be tweeting about it and saying he was on the show and he told us so.
Yeah.
I won't have to go on the show and the host will ask me, did you ever think that you could achieve something like that?
And they'll show the clip from this show.
Yeah. I hope so.
Perfect. Well, it's been an absolute delight speaking to you today. Like I said, thank you for joining us, even in the sweltering heat that is 40 degrees Celsius.
Sorry if my face is dripping.
No, man, I appreciate
I didn't want to have my air conditioning on and to have extra noise in the conversation. So I'm going to tough it up, but it's super hot. And you guys are amazing. Had a good blast. You know, it was a good time. Thank you so much.
I just want to say, like Callum said, I've been a fan of yours, since the Quebecers. It's been an absolute pleasure. I have so much respect for you, and I'm really, really grateful for your time, and really thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We've been Ringsiders Wrestling. Thank you for joining us. See you soon.